Hi, this is Nick from Pathway to Oz, and today I'm going to run through a very common question that we are asked as registered education and migration agents. Can a foreigner do an apprenticeship in Australia? So an apprenticeship is basically a 4-year on-the-job learning process in which you'd learn a trade like carpentry, electrician, plumbing, automotive, etc. Unfortunately, foreigners cannot undertake an apprenticeship in Australia. And the reason for this is, the main reason is that one, you need a valid work visa to do this. So say for example you're on a working holiday and your employer, you're working for a carpenter and he's like, look, we'd love to take you on for an apprentice. On a working holiday visa, it's valid for 1 year and you can work for the same employer for only 6 months. A standard Australian apprenticeship goes for 4 years. So there's just no way to work around that. You need a visa and there's none really out there for you. There's a visa, a training visa, I think it's a 402. Unfortunately, that it specifically states in legislation that you actually can't do an apprenticeship on this visa, or a trade-based apprenticeship. The second reason is one, apprenticeships are pretty much funded and paid for by the Australian government. And the Australian government would pay your employer or whoever's taking on a student or an apprentice, $4,000 a year roughly for their training. And an Australian government isn't going to fund a foreigner to study or learn a trade in Australia. Fortunately, you can still learn a trade in Australia. Basically, you can go to what's called a vocational training college or a technical school. And learn a trade such as carpentry, automotive, electrical instrumentation, panel beating, potentially plumbing, boat building. There's a bunch of different sort of options out there. Essentially, these would all be done in a 2-year course, so it's a lot better than an apprenticeship in regards that you learn the trade in only 2 years. You can do this because the majority of your time is spent in class. So you might do 3 days in class and then you would have sort of 400 hours or something like that of vocational placement in which you would work for an employer. So you still can learn a trade, you still can work for an employer when you're not in class or throughout your vocational placement, and you still come out with the same qualification that an Australian would had they undertaken sort of a 4-year apprenticeship. So like a Cert 3 in carpentry or something like that. So yes, it is possible to learn a trade in Australia and become fully certified. However, it is not possible to do the sort of standard Australian apprenticeship. However, if you would like to ask a few more questions or you want to know potentially about some of these schools which you potentially could study for a few days a week and then go and work for the employer on the rest, they're all around Australia. Pathway to Oz is partnered with most of them, so give us a call or email and we'd be more than happy to assist. Thanks.